Little twins disappears every evening. Their mother followed them to this house. Every evening at 6:47 p.m., 4-year-old twins Elijah and Amara vanish. Their widowed mother follows them to an abandoned barn and discovers they've been visiting someone, a lonely old man, her forgotten uncle, and he's been telling them stories about the father they lost. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments what time is it and where are you watching from. Let's start. Every evening at 6:47 p.m., not 6:45, not 6:50, but exactly 6:47, 4-year-old twins Elijah and Amara would slip out the back door and disappear. Their mother, Grace, had noticed the pattern 3 weeks ago. At first, she thought nothing of it. Children wander, they explore, but the precision troubled her. The same time, every single day, and they'd return exactly 30 minutes later, dirt on their bare feet, smiles on their faces, and something else, something that made Grace's chest tighten. Peace. Her babies, who'd been anxious and clingy since their father died 8 months ago, came back peaceful. "Where do you go?" Grace had asked that first week, kneeling to their eye level, searching their faces. "Just playin', Mama," Amara would say, her twisted braids catching the porch light. "Outside," Elijah would add, squeezing his sister's hand tighter. They wouldn't say more, and Grace, drowning in her own grief, working 2 jobs to keep the lights on, had been too tired to push. But on the 22nd evening, something broke inside her. She watched from the kitchen window as Elijah, in his white t-shirt and denim overalls, the same ones his father had bought him, took his sister's hand. Amara, in her pink checkered shirt, the one she insisted on wearing even though it was getting too small, squeezed back. They looked so small, so vulnerable, so alone in their twin world. Grace grabbed her cardigan, Marcus's cardigan, the one that still smelled like him if she buried her face in it, and followed. The twins walked down the old dirt path that led to the abandoned Thornhill farm. Grace's heart lurched. She'd told them 100 times to stay away. The barn was dangerous, unstable. But as she watched her barefoot babies walking hand in hand through the golden evening light, there was something about the way they moved that made her throat close up. They walked like they were being called, like they were going to meet someone. "Please, God," Grace prayed silently, "please let them be safe. They're all I have left." The weathered barn came into view, its rusted roof glowing in the sunset. Grace hid behind the old oak tree, the same tree where Marcus had proposed to her 9 years ago, and watched as her twins approached the open barn door. They didn't hesitate. They walked straight inside like they'd done it 100 times. Grace waited, her heart hammering, then followed. Grace stepped through the barn door, and the smell hit her first. Hay, old wood, and something else. Coffee. Someone was brewing coffee. Her eyes adjusted to the dim light. There, in the center of the barn, sat an elderly man in a wheelchair, Mr. Thornhill, her grandmother's younger brother, the one who disappeared from family gatherings after Grandma Ruth died, the one everyone said had moved away, too broken by loss to stay, but he was here, and arranged on hay bales before him, like students before a beloved teacher, sat Elijah and Amara. "Your daddy," Mr. Thornhill was saying, his voice cracking with emotion, "was one of the finest men I ever knew." Grace's knees nearly gave out. "You knew our daddy?" Elijah's small voice was so full of longing it shattered something in Grace's chest. "Knew him? Child, I watched him grow up. He used to come to this barn with your mama when they were dating. Sat right where you're sitting now." The old man's weathered brown hands trembled as he pointed to the hay bales. He'd ask me about the farm, about the land, about what it meant to build something that lasts. "Mama doesn't talk about Daddy much," Amara said quietly, and Grace had to press her fist against her mouth to keep from sobbing. "It makes her too sad." "I know, baby girl, I know." Mr. Thornhill's eyes were wet. "That's why you come here, isn't it? Because you can talk about him here." Both twins nodded. "Tell us again," Elijah whispered. "Tell us about the day we were born." Grace watched as the old man wheeled himself closer to her children, and when he spoke, his voice was thick with tears. "The day you two were born, your daddy called me from the hospital. It was 3:47 in the morning, and he was crying so hard he could barely speak. Said, 'Uncle Thomas, they're here. They're perfect. I have a son and a daughter, and I don't know how my heart doesn't burst.' And then he said," Mr. Thornhill's voice broke completely. "He said, 'How did my daddy do this? How did he love this much and not die from it?'" Elijah stood up and walked to the old man, putting his small hand on its knee. "Our daddy loved us?" "Oh, child." Mr. Thornhill pulled the 4-year-old into his arms, and the old man wept. "Your daddy loved you more than life itself, more than breathing. You and your sister and your mama were his whole world." Amara joined them, and Grace watched as her babies, her broken, grieving babies who'd been trying so hard to be brave for her, finally crumbled. They cried like they'd been holding it in for 8 months, because they had been. "I miss him," Elijah sobbed. "I miss him so much, and I can't remember his voice anymore." "I got his voice, baby." Mr. Thornhill reached for something beside his wheelchair. A phone. "I got videos. I got pictures. I got stories for days." He looked up, and his eyes met Grace's in the shadows. "And I got time. All the time in the world." Grace couldn't hide anymore. She stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "Grace." Mr. Thornhill's face crumpled when he saw her. "Baby girl. Uncle Thomas." She hadn't called him that since she was a child. "I thought you were gone. After Grandma died, you just disappeared." "I was grieving," he said simply. "Lost my sister. Lost my wife 6 months after. Couldn't face people anymore, so I came back here, to the barn, where Ruth and I grew up, where the family started." He gestured to the corner where Grace now saw he'd set up a small living space. "Been here a year, completely alone, until 3 weeks ago." "What happened 3 weeks ago?" "These two showed up." He looked at the twins with such love it hurt. Barefoot, holding hands, walked right up to me like they'd been sent by God himself. Asked me why I was crying. Grace's hand flew to her mouth. I told him I was sad because I missed people, missed family. And you know what this little one said? He touched Amara's braids gently. She said, "We can be your family. We're really good at it. We're twins, so you get 2 for 1. Grace sobbed. "And this one," he ruffled Elijah's hair. He said, "We lost our daddy, so we know about being sad. You can be sad with us." "So they kept coming," Grace whispered, "every day at 6:47. Because that's when I told them the light was prettiest. That's when your Grandma Ruth used to come here back when we were kids. She'd sit right there and we'd watch the sun set through the slats." He pointed, and Grace saw it, the way the golden light streamed through, illuminating dust motes like magic. "Your twins brought life back into this barn, back into me." Elijah pulled away from Mr. Thornhill and ran to his mother, wrapping his arms around her legs. "I'm sorry we didn't tell you, Mama, but Uncle Thomas has stories about Daddy, real stories, and he doesn't cry when he tells them, not like you." The accusation, spoken with such innocent honesty, broke Grace open. "Baby, She knelt down, pulling both twins into her arms. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I made you feel like you couldn't talk about Daddy. I was just trying to. I didn't want you to hurt." "But we do hurt, Mama," Amara said, and her 4-year-old wisdom was devastating. "We hurt every day. Uncle Thomas says that's okay. He says love doesn't stop just because someone goes to heaven." Grace looked up at the old man, this uncle she'd forgotten about, this family member who'd been alone in a barn grieving his own losses, who'd somehow become exactly what her babies needed. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked the twins. "Why keep this secret?" "Because Uncle Thomas said—" Elijah looked back at the old man for permission. Mr. Thornhill wheeled closer. "I asked them to keep it secret because I needed to know they really wanted to visit me, not because someone made them." He looked at the twins with wet eyes. "These two started coming on their own, every single day, because they needed someone to talk to about their daddy, someone who wouldn't cry every time his name came up." Grace's throat tightened. He was right. She couldn't say Marcus's name without breaking down. "They needed stories about him," the old man continued. "Happy stories, funny stories, stories that made them feel close to him again." He wiped his eyes. "And I needed them just as much. I was alone in this barn, Grace, completely alone, ready to give up on everything." "Until we came," Elijah said proudly. "Until you came," Mr. Thornhill agreed, his voice shaking. "Two little barefoot angels who walked in here and brought life back with them. You saved me, babies. You truly did." Grace understood now. Her children had found someone who needed them, and they'd found someone they needed too. "We help each other be less sad," Amara explained simply. "Right, Uncle Thomas?" "Right, sweetheart." The old man smiled through his tears. "We help each other remember the people we love, and that makes the missing hurt a little less." Grace stood, walked to her uncle, and fell into his arms. They held each other and wept, for Marcus, for Grandma Ruth, for all the lost time, for all the grief they'd carried alone. "I didn't know you were here," Grace sobbed into his shoulder. "I didn't know you were suffering too." "We've all been suffering alone," he said, "but we don't have to anymore." Amara tugged on Grace's cardigan. "Can we keep coming, Mama? Please?" Grace pulled back, wiping her eyes, and looked at her children, really looked at them. They were smiling. For the first time in 8 months, they were genuinely smiling. "Yes," she whispered, "but I'm coming too." Elijah's face lit up. "Uncle Thomas, can you tell the story about Daddy and the barn cat?" "And the one about when Daddy asked you if he could marry Mama," Amara added. Mr. Thornhill laughed, a rusty sound that grew stronger. "I can tell you every story I've got. We've got time. We've got all the time in the world now." So they sat together on the hay bales, Grace, her twins, and the uncle she thought was lost, and as the 647 light filled the barn with gold, Mr. Thornhill began to speak. "Your daddy came to this barn on a Tuesday afternoon in spring. He was nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs." And Grace listened as her children learned about their father through someone else's eyes. She watched their faces glow with joy at each new detail, each funny moment, each piece of Marcus they could hold on to. For the first time since the funeral, Grace felt something other than crushing grief. She felt hope. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. Tell me, have you ever reconnected with a family member you thought you'd lost? Sometimes the people we need most are waiting to be found. Share your story below.